Let's make some bread. What we need: 500 grams of plain flour. I use 10 grams of salt. I have about 10 grams of sugar. We need some butter at room temperature, 20 grams. We need 300 mils of water, lukewarm, and we need some yeast. Next to that, I use a kitchen machine with a dough hook, and of course we need a baking pan to bake the bread in. First of all, we make a little hole in the middle of the flour, and we put the salt around the flour so it doesn't come in contact with the yeast from the start. All the other ingredients, we have a little package of yeast. This is 7 grams of dried yeast, which is plenty. If you use fresh meat yeast, you need about 3 times the amount. We add the yeast in the middle of the bowl, we add the sugar in the middle of the bowl, we add the knob of butter in there, and we add the 300 mils of water in there. Next, we let the machine do the work. We put it on a low speed just to start the mixing. And we leave this for about 10 more minutes. I think we're about 10 minutes past now, so we can stop the mixer completely. We lift the machine, get all the dough down, and we take off the bowl. We form a nice little ball from the dough. You see it's nice and sticky, which is a nice thing to see. And what I do is I take another bowl, put a little bit of oil in the bowl, make it, take a piece of paper and just grease it up a little. This is to make sure that the dough doesn't stick too much. And we take the bowl of dough we have made, make a nice ball of it, and place it gently inside that bowl. What I tend to do is, when the dough is in that bowl, I'll take a little bit of oil and cover it so it doesn't dry out too much during the final curing of this curing stage. It's the first curing. And we cover it with a kitchen cloth. And now we leave it for about an hour. That should do it. The dough has had an hour to rise, and you can see it has increased in volume quite nicely. The dough is ready to get into the bread pan, but we don't want it to stick. So what we do, we put a little oil into the pan and take our oil brush and make sure there is a nice coating of oil on the bottom and on the sides. And even if you have a non-stick pan like this, I advise that you do add some oil or butter or any other kind of grease in there to make sure that the dough doesn't stick. Next challenge we have is getting the dough out of the bowl, and the oil we put in there should help quite a lot. And we form the bread. We make a bowl out of it, fold it in over itself a little. And of course the extra air will come out now, but that's no problem because it's going to have another cure. This looks nice. And we form it a little so it will be about the size, the length of the pan, and we just drop it in. Make sure that it fills the pan quite nicely. See, remember this because it'll change a little. Okay, we let it sit again, covering it with that piece of kitchen cloth, and we'll let it rise for yet another hour. Beep! And I'll get back to you when this is done. Now then, the dough has had about an hour to rise, and as you can see, it's increased in volume quite nicely. Something you don't have to do, but what I like to do is take a knife and just score it over the top. Make a little bit of a pattern in it. It's just a visual thing, not important. I've preheated my oven to 220 degrees C, and it's time to go to the final stage. In it goes, and it needs about 40 minutes to bake. I'll be back in about 40 minutes. Well, the bread has had a chance to cool off a bit. Let's see what it looks like. Sounds good. And here's the first slice. Well, that actually looks perfect. I like it, I like it, I like it a lot. Well, that was my take on a simple white bread. Tune in later for more.